Hello everyone and welcome to Faithful to the Traitors. That's right, we are discussing Series 2 of New Zealand Episode 6. I am Ben and I am Faithful.
Hello, I'm Alex and I've just had a coughing fit. Just like Whitney and Mike did before they went on each other. So maybe I'm not a faithful after all and I am indeed a traitor.
There's only one way to find out.
Oh. How? Do we need to do a vote?
You.
Well, yeah, well, okay. Well, who's going to vote? It's you or me? I'll vote for you, you vote for me. We need to do the fire pit. Charlie can join in. Charlie, our producer. He's been busy editing last episode. And that's why you can't hear him this week. He's too busy.
Is that another hint to people to look on Instagram, is it? Have you posted a picture of the cat again?
I mean, if they want to go on Instagram, they can find us on Instagram and Threads at Faithful to the Traitors. Indeed. They can find us on Twitter at Traitors Podcast. Or you could also find us on YouTube if you like watching a video podcast where you can see our beautiful, beautiful faces.
You can see us on Spotify too.
Or Spotify. Faithful to the Traitors Podcast is what you need to search to find us. Don't forget, if you are watching us on YouTube, to subscribe, ring the bell, and you can comment underneath the video. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favourite apps, don't forget to subscribe to us on them. And if you love the podcast, give us 5 stars and a little description for why we are just so wonderful. And of course, if you have any questions or anything you want to say, you can email us faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. And if you enjoy the show, you can also help promote it by going to buymeacoffee.com/faithful, where you can throw some silver bars our way.
You've got coffee right there.
Thank you very much.
Buy me a coffee.
Buy me one of these.
So do you want to know what the general mood is after this episode of the week? Just a little.
Of course I do.
You pissed me off tonight. You pissed me off during the challenge today.
Wow.
I still think you're a clever bastard.
Oh, okay.
Oh no! Then say something.
Yeah, good for you. Like, shut up. Oh my god.
I'm coming for you, bro.
Wow. I mean, what you're listening there is the literal fallout of what happened at the end of the episode. That's a real teaser. That's probably the best teaser you've ever created.
Is it?
It is. You should edit that together. You should do more edits like that more often. But we can't.
General feel is that, well, a certain contestant upset a lot of people.
He did
throughout the
That's
episode.
another clue. He did. He was upsetting people from the start, and then he kind of cooled off a little bit. But this episode, he just and where else would you really wind someone up other than someone's back paddock?
That's true.
Quite honestly, I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it in someone's back paddock.
Bless him. So, surprising murder. Last episode, I did say we've been bad at predicting things.
Yes, and we predicted very badly.
And
this
again,
time round.
yeah, because I last episode I said Stephen's one of those people who's going to be in the final with Traitors. Here we are.
Well, not just that. That's one thing, but I must say you got wrong. But what we got wrong collectively was that we were sure that it was going to be a murder or seduction. It was. We were sure that they were going to go for Noel. They didn't. They decided that they wanted to have a conversation before they recruited. They thought it was too quick to think about this. I mean, we didn't see a conversation taking place on the episode later on between them. So perhaps that's something they may have a further later down the line. But instead, they felt like they wanted to control the game by getting rid of a stronger player instead. And that's why with the ones they were choosing, I was surprised with the one they went for. Because I would have said of the 3, who were Britt, Joe, and Ciali, I would have said that Britt was perhaps... I think they gave her more credence than actually she deserved. Not to say Brittany wasn't a great player. I really did think Brittany was a great player. But I think
Very
Joe...
defensive there.
But I think, well, because I know people will at me. But I think Joe's a bit a silent assassin. And they were quite right to say that he can turn and influence people very quickly. He has an influential mark in the group.
He's in with the lads.
He is.
The lad group.
Ciali, well, Joe. I don't think Joe was. Are you talking about Jason,
Well, in the car
Ciali,
he was,
and Utah?
and they're all talking in the
They
car
were
laughing.
then. That's when they took Mike hostage. But Ciali was also... I feel like Ciali's got a good influence in the group. And what's more, him, as I was just saying, him, Jason, and Utah have almost grouped together as a bond as well. They now have nicknames for players so they can talk about them without other people knowing. Here's a little game for you.
Right.
Who's the player?
I know one of them.
Right, so Utah, Ciali, and Jason have all together made nicknames for some of the players. We learnt some of those nicknames. I'm going to start with an easy one for you. Who is Bob the Builder?
That's obviously Mike.
That is correct.
He's always down on the site, isn't he?
Bing! Correct. Bob the Builder was Mike. Who's Kumala? I'll give you a clue. He may have been banished this episode.
Oh, Stephen.
Stephen.
That was a big clue. What is that now? I don't know what that means. It must
I'm not
mean
sure.
something in New Zealand. Carry on.
It might be Aboriginal.
Who's Potter? I know that one.
Oh, I was about to say, who is Potter?
Well, that's obvious.
That's Mark. Well, that's it. I've exhausted
Shouldn't he be
the names.
Voldemort because they all don't like him? No.
No, he's Potter because he looks like Harry Potter,
Yeah, I know,
obviously.
but-
I don't think people hate him. I think people are just
He looks more like
frustrated by him. He does look like Snape, actually. He's the guy. Is that the guy with
Alan
the
Rickman.
Scar? He plays Scar in The Lion King.
I don't
He does the
know
voice
that.
of Scar in The Lion King.
Well, Alan Rickman does.
Yes,
Does he?
yes. Doesn't he? Oh no, Jeremy Irons does. Jeremy's Iron. Is it Jeremy Irons? I don't know. Anyway, enough. So they have their own system now. So I feel like that's almost to the level of the Housewives.
I'm going to call Utah.
If you know, you know.
I'm going to call Utah, Florida.
Tar Florida.
I'm going to call Utah, Florida.
Tar
his name.
Florida.
My God.
Who's Tar Florida?
Utah.
Oh,
You know
Utah.
the man who
You're going
was
to call him
talking about
Florida?
with
What,
little
because he's
short
another
shorts?
state?
Yeah, that's my nickname. Secret.
Florida. What, because he's the state that kind of bends around the side of the United
Because he was
States?
wearing little shorty shorts this week with flowers
Oh, right, and you
on.
saw his Florida, did you?
his Florida flower.
You saw his Orlando?
No, that's just his nickname.
Was his Orlando poking out, was it? Was his Miami Keys showing for you?
I don't know, but
Look.
that's his nickname.
Look, listen.
I was applying
those,
the same logic as Potter, okay?
Okay, but those three,
Enough talk.
I want to talk about them because those three have a bond now. They have a group. They're clearly a strong unit. They're going to vote together. They're
Men.
showing signs they're going to vote together. Not necessarily because they've made a group together. Like the Housewives in a previous series.
House husbands.
They're the house husbands.
Mm-hmm.
They've made a bond now. Now, as a group, they're quite important because one of the people in that group is flat out now accusing Mike as being a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
Mike from being in a very safe position at the top of the episode where he felt like king of the world, that he thought that everyone was going to trust him from now on,
Well,
that
the
he could
fall is
do
very
no wrong.
quick. Fall from grace.
Yep, he's gone woo and completely fallen now with the help of Bailey as well, who showed her card at the round table.
She's on it.
She was very confident to go ahead and do that. It feels like there's already 4 people who can now push. There's only 13 left as well in the game, don't forget. There's already 4 people who can now group and go for Mike. Mike's in a dangerous position here.
Especially with Jane on the she'll jump when she has to.
This is what I was going to say. Do you think Jane is going to support Mike, or do you think Jane will see this as a golden ticket to get
can't
him
trust
gone?
him.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
She said she can't trust him. And also, when they were like, shall we recruit or not? Mike was like, no, we won't. And I think Jane kind of wanted to. And that's when Mike was like, oh, I'm the leader. I think he's waiting to get rid of Jane so he can pick his traitors from scratch. So that's why he didn't want to recruit. And that's why he wanted to convince Jane not to yet.
This is why it's dangerous for Mike, because Mike felt like he was influencing the game. Like I said, right at the top, he felt like he was telling Jane exactly how to play the game going forward. At the breakfast table, he even mentioned to Jane, like, Jane asked him, do you think people are going to start like high-fiving you, kind of saying, oh, congratulations, you're the man? And Mike quite boastfully said, yeah, I do actually. I think that people will kind of see me now as a influential player, someone that people will listen to. If I put out a name, people will start listening to it. But Mike's kind of not followed it up to Mark's detriment as well. Mike hasn't really followed it up either by putting out any other person's name. And so now when people are coming after him, like Bailey did at the round table tonight, he then kind of backtracked and said, well, actually, Bailey, you know, I'm glad you kind of questioned me. I question you back. I believe you. Where really that was an opportunity for Mike to kind of really push Bailey going forth. So Mike's slipping a little bit, and you see this quite often happening on the traitors, where when a traitor gets a fellow traitor out, they almost become so confident, so big-headed, they feel like they can't do anything wrong, and that's their ultimate undoing from their point, that from the standpoint of people who then start looking up from the outside and seeing this. Because
And
again,
people started looking at him quite quickly as well.
but Ciali also brought up at the round table that he felt like there was been a shift in him. There's been suspicious confidence that he's gained from getting
Which
this.
is true. Like, even when we were watching it last episode, it was like he's doing this too early because he's suddenly just putting Whitney's name. It seemed to come out of nowhere. Yeah, he's gone from quite a little mouse to
Squeak.
saying too much. I think Jane's playing a good game because she has like a group like of close friends like Kat and Donna, and I think people trust her. She's quite trustworthy the way she says things.
I agree. Because that's the group that she established when it was the game last episode when they had to find the numbers for the padlocks. And we both said that's a group that's kind of been bonded together. And again, you're right. So again, it kind of puts Mike in. Mike's playing as a loner still. Like, he's not really formed any bonds with people. Probably the only person he kind of formed a slight bond with was Stephen, and now he's lost him.
And I thought him and Brittany had a bond, but then he's murdered her, which makes the murder all a bit weird.
This is it. This is why, going back to what we were first talking about, the murder, like the decision between Brit, Joe and Ciali, I would have thought Ciali was a given. As soon as he put his name out there and he said, like, he unrests the group, he talks, and he knows
He's part of that boys group.
Exactly.
The lads.
He must see the lads. No, the house husbands.
Yeah.
He must see that the house husbands potentially have a real influence going forward. You know, what if they do add Joe to their house husbands? That's 4 then. You know, that's four people in a group. That's almost a third of the group going forward who have this influence with the vote going forward.
I'd be friends with the theatre kids. Bailey, Ben, Noel.
Yeah. You're one of the young ones, are you?
Yeah, Molly, the theatre kids.
It reminds me of those memes you see on social media. See, now I don't know. Those memes at the moment, have you seen them when it says me talking to my 20-year-old colleague and it's just me being 30 talking to my 30-year-old colleague? It's just an old man with like a really long beard and it's just a young kid stood next to him. That's how I'd feel if I was with the theatre kids.
Okay, so before we move on then,
What's your name and where do you come from?
we do have to talk about Brittany. I'm sure there's lots to say about her because she's the famous one of the series, isn't she? Isn't she like, I don't know. Brittany,
Where'd that come
32.
from?
She's a content creator. I'm assuming she's like the most famous contestant on this series of Traitors.
I think I made my thoughts known about that right at the top of the series.
Did you?
Yeah.
I can't remember that.
I
No, it doesn't matter anyway.
It doesn't matter. She's dead. Dead to me
I thought
and
she
to
was
the world.
I thought Brittany was a really good player. Right, Brit.
She was, but she relied on other people to get her point across, which is a bit what Mark tried to do this episode and failed.
No, I thought she was good. She had more in her. Brit became famous on TikTok for renovating her house. Also, I need to say, before I carry this on, this is from the spinoff.co.nz. These words are not mine. But sadly, there is no TikTok on the Traitors. And Paul Henry probably doesn't give a shit about the colour of her walls. Never mind. Brit says she's also addicted to cleaning. So let's see how she mops up the competition.
First of all, there is a TikTok in the Traitors. They show it at the end of every episode, or most episodes. It's a clock turning to midnight. So
Now who sounds like an old man?
well, I am. And second of all, does she ride a bike to work?
No, because she's on TikTok.
She might ride a little tricycle across the lounge to her ring light.
I'm going to do Stephen's fact file as well because we know that he got banished.
Okay, Stephen got banished at the end of this episode.
Everyone
everyone
knows that because they're listening. This is like an after show. You don't watch this before. I keep telling you.
Last episode, you read out a message from someone who said, I don't watch the episodes because I can't watch them, but I still enjoy listening to the podcast.
They didn't say they still listened.
Well, I think it was implied.
Stephen is 67, retired salesman. This retiree hopes to position himself as the elder of the group so he can lull the young folk into feeling... Yeah.
That sounds a bit pervy. He's like, what?
Lull them in.
I've got a lollipop for you. Sounds like the
young
child
folk
catcher.
Into feeling safe and secure. Nobody tell Ben Porter. Do you know who Ben Porter is, anyone? But it's time to bust out the gold card. The oldies are here to play too.
I suspect you know who Ben Porter is.
I have no idea who Ben Porter.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's another New Zealand reference.
Okay.
So there's the ones who died.
Well, as I say at the end of every episode...
Actor, New Zealand actor.
There you go. As I say at the end of every episode, if you do ride a bike to work, please let us know. It's very important. Oh, Bean! It's Bean!
Ben! Why are they talking about Ben Porter?
Well, first of all, you said it
Are they
wrong.
related? Is Ben and Stephen related?
Bean and Stephen related.
Why?
Oh, hang on. Right, I'm looking at their pictures now. They've both
Ben
got rosy
Porter.
cheeks. They've both got raisy cheeks. Look at them. They are very similar looking.
Well, I'm just reading the fact file. I think.
Don't read his fact file.
I know, but I think the spinoff.co.nz have done an earlier joke in Ben's fact file, which links to Stephen fact file joke, possibly.
I was getting excited then.
Something about old.
I mean, you know me. I love an excuse to say bean. But
Ben says, older people struggle to understand his generation. But I don't know what like the gold card and stuff means. I don't know.
Gold card is like a bus pass, I suppose. Because when you get older, you get like a special upgrade on your credit card, don't you?
Oh, he's
like
an actor.
Like American Express. It says an actor on his fact file.
Oh, yeah.
Do you proofread the fact file before you read it at the beginning of the episode?
Ben Porter is in The Brokenwood Mysteries.
Ooh.
A Bloody Treat. This Sunday, 8:30 p.m.
What channel?
TVNZ1.
Television New Zealand 1.
There you go. He's kissing a girl in a Halloween outfit.
Bean.
Mm-hmm.
Under a badger symbol.
Oh, spoiler. If you go on his Instagram, don't look at photo 3 because Ben Porter doesn't look well. Well, there you go then. So they're not related and there's just a weird joke in the fact file.
Didn't know he's an actor.
Well, here we are.
I mean, it's a shame really because like when you live in the UK, we get a few Australian or New Zealand TV shows over here, but you tend to only you tend to only reference those Shortland Street, Neighbours.
We saw Roger
Home and
Corso on
Away.
TV the other day, didn't we? He was on a movie,
on a daytime
TV
show.
movie.
No, it was a daytime. It was a series.
Oh, well. Roger Corso.
That's what I'm saying. We don't tend to get, unfortunately, I must add, because whenever they send something our way, it tends to be very good. What's that TV? That one with the newscasters. That's excellent.
Australian.
Yeah, that's why I said
It's not New Zealand.
No, I'm saying both from that area, from down below.
It's very insulting, I feel.
I'm not insulting New Zealand. I love you, New Zealand as well.
And Australia just the same place, isn't it?
No, I'm not saying that, but they've probably got very similar TV. They probably share television amongst each other. It's like we get a lot of Irish television over here. They might get a lot of New Zealand shows and vice versa. Mm-hmm. You know I love New Zealand. New Zealand...
Ben Porter was in Australia recently.
He's from Sydney. It says in his fact file. Something else you haven't read yet.
Well, I don't read his fact file because he's not dead or banished yet.
Shortland Street. There you go. So he's on Shortland Street.
He's in little shorts here. Swing shorts.
Why are you not trying to link what I've said?
I don't know what Shortland Street is.
Shortland Street's a soap about hospital. Oh. Is it you or is it me? That's all I know. The song. I wonder if they still have the lyrics of that song. Anyway, this has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, I know. I want to know who Ben Porter's friend is in this photo when they're in red trunks together.
If you're in a photo with Bean Porter where they're both wearing red trunks and you're underneath like an arch in a stone, which looks a bit like a Mario Kart course. Cooper Beach, to be specific, then please get in touch with us. faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. If you're Bean's friend on his Instagram. Right, so everyone's suspicious of Mark.
Back to the show now.
Everyone's suspicious of Mike, sorry. But someone else who stood out on the show was Mark. Mark made a bit of a poo-poo by pushing his agenda onto Kat and encouraging her to be the one who steps forward and brings it up at the round table, which really did rattle her cage.
Do you think Kat's fact file is going to say she has claws? I bet it does. That's something that the spinoff.co.nz would write. Well, we've been waiting for Kat, haven't we? Because we've been saying for a while that she's one to watch, and she kind of proved that today because she took no shit. Mark tried to sort of be like, I have this big plan about banishing someone. Kat, you bring it up. And she was like, no, I won't. And that was just where the downfall of Mark really began this episode.
I mean, he had a bad day in the office.
That thing with the challenge did annoy me as well. Although later on he was like, I didn't hear. And it's like, yes, you did. I don't believe that he didn't hear them say, we don't want you, we want someone else. Because he stepped forward really smugly and it was just really... I don't know. That annoyed me.
I could
feel the frustration.
Mark the benefit of the doubt, only because I do think that Mark sometimes gets inside his own head, and sometimes when he hears things or believes in things hard enough, he then kind of goes off and does his own. Look at episode 1 when he kind of went off and to look for pool balls, thinking it was the eye of a doll. I think Mark gets inside his own head, and I think he does sometimes become blindsided or deaf-sided, for lack of a better term, when he thinks that he is ultimately going to help with the task more than anyone else. So I actually believe that Mark genuinely didn't hear them say anything. If he did, then poor show, Mark. You should know better, because again,
I think you're a clever bastard.
I think that he's putting a dagger in his own back from doing that, and he had already known that he'd made a mistake by basically trying to get Kat. Again, a very innocent thing. I think he genuinely wanted to get Kat to work together with him.
He didn't do it very well, did he?
But he didn't do it very well. He approached it wrong.
Yeah. Don't tell me. She literally said, I'm playing my own game. Don't tell me what to do. If you want to bring someone up, bring them up.
Well, they all agreed with her as well. They said, yeah, Mark. Sorry for the
What did
accent.
Jane say, though?
She said, you bloody fool. What the fuck are you talking about, Mark? Now piss it off.
You need a knock on your noggin.
Yeah. You need to have yourself head wobbled.
God blimey, that
Wind
Mark.
your neck in, Mark, you twat. That's what Jane said.
But yeah, it was sort of silly because I think they were kind of just starting to not... They were kind of like getting over Mark a bit.
They were.
And then he did that, and then it cut to the next scene. They're all in their cars. All of the cars were talking about it.
Every single car was talking about, even the car that Mark was in was talking about what Mark had done and said. So we
No
got
Happy Meals this week.
No McDonald's this week. There was literally he lit a fire and it burned the whole episode.
And then he messed it up even more when they got to the task and they had to do that thing where he was like
cutting the rope.
Yeah, and he stood in front of Utah to do it, and then he ran over to Utah to try and cut him away straight away anyway. It's like, you should have just not done it then.
Mark did say, again, to Mark's defence, I'm defending Mark heavily on this one. Mark did say to his defence that he and Noel had both decided at the same time that they wanted to do that. Like, they telepathically knew that they had to get Utah out, which kind of...
Although Noel was like, why is he here? It should be Utah.
Well, this is it. They kind of then made Mark's excuse of, I didn't hear you say Utah, kind of fall apart a little bit. So actually, maybe I am giving him too great a benefit.
Stupid, but luckily, because we have been questioning Jason's high-vis jacket this whole time.
He wore it again. His clothes have still not been laundered.
But did you see him with that knife?
He was hacking away.
So I feel like he deserves to high-vis jacket now because we know
That's true.
He uses knives as axes.
He's like Bear Grylls in New Zealand. Drop him off at the top of a
He
mountain.
was doing good.
Drop him off at the top of a mountain and he will find a way to survive.
And Joe, he's he got set free and he's like, give me that knife. And he started doing it instead.
I love Joe.
So,
Joe was really playing the game. Like, Joe,
I think Mark was just rubbish with knives. It took 10 minutes, didn't it, for him to do the first one?
Not to be fair, it wasn't just Mark, it was Noel as well. They both didn't know how to cut the rope.
Noel had just carried about 20 pieces of puzzle by himself. And he was like, I am winded, so it would be nice if you could do something.
Like, let's swap. And then Mark kind of casually strolled around and took puzzle pieces. They did complete the task, but I did worry that they weren't going to be able to complete it fast enough. And
that's where this game had a lot going on, because this is kind of where Stephen unknowingly sealed his fate during this game.
This just goes to show that on this game, the Traitors, that it just literally takes one micro mistake to just turn the game on you.
Like Joe Biden. He took 30 seconds to think. He's like, let me just think about it. And they were like, you're a traitor. So, well.
Did he call someone around the table Putin?
Yeah, wrong names.
Yeah, wrong names.
So,
but I mean, poor old Stephen, no one knew how to spell his name, did they?
No. One of those.
That was a problem.
Out of all the names on this series, Stephen wasn't on my list of being spelt 4 different ways.
Again, to be fair, Stephen can be spelt in many different ways.
We saw them all tonight.
There's Stephen with PH.
Stephen.
Stefan.
Yeah.
They added an A at the end.
We had them all. So because he took a moment to sort of think between the choice of you can do a banishment or a murder, they were like, well, you were thinking for about 30 seconds. That's not a faithful. So, yeah, he did.
Well, they had a decision. So anyone who wasn't untied, which was Stephen, Kat, Donna and Jane, had to choose whether to banish or murder. If they did a banishment and they didn't choose a traitor, that $2,000, they won, would be deducted from the prize pot. If they chose murder, then they would each get a shield to save them. Now, you were like... this.
And if they got a traitor, they get an extra 2,000.
Oh, they get an extra 2.
But they didn't.
You said that it was a given that you would go for... See, for me,
You're
I
Stephen,
don't think it was.
You would have had to sit there and think about it like Stephen did. You would have been voted out. I knew straight away as a faithful that you don't want to risk a murder because that's guaranteed a faithful. Doing a banishment, you could get a traitor.
Honestly, I just think that Stephen was in a group where we already know that Kat, Donna and Jane are quite friendly with one another, and they just kind of went together and ganged up on Stephen a little bit. All Stephen said, to be fair to him though, was that he didn't want to go for the decision of murder.
He was just thinking it through.
He just wanted them to take a beat and just sit back and say, is this definitely what you want to do? Instead of just going, no, it's banishment. And
That's
then
what I
was the end
mean.
of
He's
it.
got a Joe Biden problem. He needed a few seconds just to think through the options, and that wasn't.
I mean, it was to their it was to their undoing though, because no pun intended.
I mean, he was
with
up
the rope.
against a policewoman who has to think very fast on her feet.
Did you bloody murder him? Yes, I did. Then you're going to jail.
You're
You
nicked. No,
slag.
you're nicked.
You're nicked, you slag.
So
I think, but this is where gang mentality kicks in for me. I think that Kat and Jane and Donna were far too quick to gang up on Stephen and influence the rest of the group in thinking the same way. And the funny thing is, the even hilarious thing is,
when you just said gang mentality, it just reminded me of this. Sorry.
I'm going to make sure that I verbally violate her.
God, that's an old quote. I loved that quote. Was that the American series, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Verbally violate. It's weird because the main conversation around the round table was Mike, followed by accusations toward Mark, which was thrown by Kat and Donna and Jane.
Donna not changing her.
But Stephen really wasn't discussed that heavily.
That's what I mean.
But it was just that one thing. That one thing that was, why did you take so long to make the decision? And everyone was like, "Oh, that's a good point." And a lot of people said that as well. They all said like, we just think it's weird that you did that, Stephen.
I wonder
Very
if a bit
weird.
of that was like because they had the incentive, like if you get a traitor, you get £2,000. Maybe they were thinking, let's go for a wild one who might be one of those traitors who's just kind of bubbling under. Maybe it will be Stephen, and we can just take a punt.
I
We're
don't
desperate
know.
to win the 2,000. Maybe it was something a bit like that.
Maybe because a lot of people did say that they went in there thinking it was wanting to vote for Mark, but again after the vote they all said we're pretty sure it's not Mark. We're basically let's just get he's just a bad traitor.
Although,
They even need a term, a bad traitor.
Mark's in that position now where they're like, we can get a traitor or just a bad faithful.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then who was it? It was like, I think it was
Ben.
Kat.
Bean said it.
Yeah, but Kat was like, well, I'm going to vote Mark.
Yeah,
It's like, okay.
Oh no, Kat and Mark have lost any friendship that they ever would have had because Mark also made that really sarcastic comment to her. Almost, it was as good as saying to her, "It's like, calm down, woman." It was like, "There's a sit down, woman. Let the men sort this out." And it's
even-
like, "All right, Mark."
Yeah. But he was smiling afterwards when Stephen went, and that's when Mike was like, why are you smiling? And that's what caused it caused this.
Oh no, then say something.
Yeah, good for you. Like, shut up. Oh my God.
I'm coming for you, bro.
So,
Well, yes.
he's just sitting there smiling all the time. So
Well, Mark said
he's not
he was
playing
smiling,
a good game.
but this is the thing. Mark was smiling because he kind of said like, "Oh, it's just a game." And then it's like, well, how do you wind up a group so quickly, telling them that they're not taking this seriously? They're all taking this seriously.
You get to episode 6, it's not a game anymore. This
Of
is where
course
it gets
not.
really personal from episode 6
Well,
to about episode 9,
but
and
it's
then
like-
it goes a bit fuzzy and then it ends.
Yes, and then we will wake up and be like, "Is this a dream?" No, it's like the same as what Noel said, like when he was digging his grave to the other two, Andrew and what was it, Brittany and. Oh no, sorry, Brianna, Brie. It's like he said, it's like, "Oh, I'm only here for a bit of fun," and that instantly brought the backup for Andrew and Brie. It was like, "Oh no, we're here to play the game. We're here to
They want
win.
those silver dollars.
They want the dollar. So yes, Ciali basically round the round table after Mark said like it's just a game. He then opened up and said like, "Look, we need to have open conversations. We need to discuss round the round table." Our thoughts. It's not, you're not hurting people because that's just what the game is, and that's the way we're going to smoke out the traitors. Stop having these. You can hear the producers like in the background going, "No, don't stop that. Shut up, Ciali." He kind of said, "Stop having these little quiet conversations to one another around the corners, like, and trying to work out tactics separately, segmenting each other. We need to work as a team to figure this out."
Yeah.
And then literally the next moment, Utah walks away with Bailey and has a conversation about Mike.
Yeah, well, he's trying to grab up numbers, but they are onto a winner there with Mike. So we'll see if Mike gets wind of that. But, you didn't get this with Series 1 New Zealand. Series 1 New Zealand, their conversation around that round table were pinpoint, spot on. So
Well, we were very
This is a bit more-
impressed. We were very impressed with New Zealand Series 1 because
this one's a bit more sporadic and emotional.
I've never seen a series where there's not. I said there was a bit of a gang group ganging up on Stephen on this episode, but to be fair, there was still some random votes being thrown out everywhere. Like 2 for Mark, 1 for Bailey, and that wasn't from Mike either. I forget who voted for Bailey, but that was just a random out of nowhere. And then one for Mike. Mike was obviously Bailey. So that they're not. they're not.
Yeah, they're still not
focusing
doing
in.
that. It's not like there's 12 votes for someone. It's always a bit, spread out. But so we think we're assuming they maybe a possibility that they may recruit tonight because there's 2 traitors left, no murder. I can't believe there's nothing for them to do. The traitors just gonna have a night off, go to bed early.
I mean, if there's no murder, it would make sense for the production.
But it's a good time
crew.
to recruit though, because people won't know.
Yeah, and a forced recruit as well. Maybe this is the time where they have to say they say to them, you have to
It'll be Mike probably.
accept the
Mark,
invitation.
sorry. But
No, what do you think they'd? No, I don't think they would, because I think that people would be suspicious for why, if they were to vote Mark, why he would be a traitor. If I was in that group and then obviously Mark had been recruited and then they voted Mark out, I would be a bit suspicious by it.
They
because
think he was a traitor the whole time.
no one thinks they're a traitor. He's a traitor.
Oh, yeah, that's
Everyone
true.
just
They
thinks
just
he's
don't
a
like
bad
him.
traitor,
Yeah.
a bad faithful. And I would be a little bit like, well, hang on, this feels a bit weird because he's not really shown any kind of traitor behaviour. He's not tried to, like, I don't know. It's just weird. I don't think Mark's acted like a traitor. He's just acted like someone who doesn't really understand what's going on, but thinks he's playing a better game than he actually is in his head.
I'd recruit Kat just because it'd be funny. Because she's played such a faithful game. I'd be like, well, take that, Kat. See how that messes up your game.
I wonder if they should recruit someone from the Desperate House Husbands. I feel like that.
Jason, Ciali, Utah.
And Utah. I think Utah would be a good call.
And Joe. Joe is in that group on the outskirts. He's part of them.
Joe's looking in, wanting to. He's like every now and then, like serving them coffee. He's like, "Okay, thanks, Joe. We'll invite you in later on." But I think that would be a useful person to have on their side because, as I said, there's an influence there. So if Utah or any of the others were to become a traitor, the influence is there for them to carry on and keeping him alive as a traitor to go to the final.
Well, if we don't know, maybe the people listening or watching at home do know.
Maybe. You do
Can they
know,
get in?
don't you know?
How can they get in touch with us for their theories? Because they've got a whole week now.
Yeah. Well,
Well, actually, they don't actually. They only have a
couple
few
of
days
days.
because we're quite late.
Yeah.
But still, just
apologies. It's Kat's fault. There's just not Kat on the show. Our producer Charlie. So obviously, do get in touch with us with any thoughts, theories. Do you ride a bike to work? Email us faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. I will not leave that joke alone. That's the joke.
We'll
of the
see how it
series.
goes down in the next few days.
You can find us on not X, it's Twitter. I've made a conscious decision not to call it that anymore. At Traitors Podcast, Instagram and Threads at Faithful to the Traitors. Of course, if you find us on there, please also follow us on there, and you can get tweets and updates every now and then of when an episode comes out. You can also find us on YouTube by searching Faithful to the Traitors Podcast. Search that very same name on your favourite podcast apps to find us on there as well if you want to listen to us instead of watching us. If you do watch us on YouTube, though, don't forget to comment below, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an episode in future. That includes not just the New Zealand series of Traitors, but the American, the Canadian, and the UK series. Not the Australian one, but we live in hope. Series 2 was the franchise killer.
It was.
But we're not sure.
We've got the back history anyway.
And of course, if you enjoy listening to the show, please give us a 5-star review and explain why you love listening to us babble on for half an hour about someone in red swimming trunks. And if you want to support us monetarily, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/faithful and you can throw a silver bar our way. Honestly, we are so grateful that everyone who helps us out on the show, and it means a lot, and we love you all.
That's right.
Apart from you, just there. I don't like you very much. You're a bit stinky, to be fair. But there you go.
Well, there you go. So until next episode, stay faithful.